you brought up a really good point, Juan. Right now, everyone's thinking, why would they do this? What is the purpose of doing this? And why don't they support, better candidates? Because it's really simple. There's only one cog in this equation that makes any sense. And that, of course, is, are you or are you not bought and paid for by corporate special interests? That's it. There really isn't anything else, because all the signs point to it. They don't want universal health care because, how about this for a little tidbit? 75% of the money spent on TV advertising for commercials in the United States is spent by the pharmaceutical industry.
Yeah. I watch it all the time. I find it I can't stand pharmaceutical advertising. I'm just saying, I'm so sick of it.
What's even more amazing about pharmaceutical advertising is that everything that you'll see, especially on like Football Sunday, has always got a disclaimer at the bottom of, okay, we'll fix this one problem, but you can have about a dozen other problems that are going to spruce up as a result.
No other country has this. No other country has these ads like this. No one has.
When Oprah, I guess, did her interview
Meghan Markle.
Yeah, all the Brits were aghast at what we do in our country. They're like, you guys have ads for drugs? Like, yeah, we do. And that, of course, just speaks to what happens on Capitol Hill. Maud, you work there. Matt, I'm sure you have experience as well. In the U.S. Senate, Bernie Sanders and Rand Paul are the only two senators who do not meet with corporate lobbyists. The other 98 do. And it's like, you're already seeing that one significant problem in real time right there, which is, and that doesn't necessarily mean that, if you're, let's say, working for Senator Murphy, that he is taking a meeting and is automatically going to go ahead with what's going on. Senator Chris Murphy is not one of the most corporate Democrats. He's a fairly decent senator overall. But there's a lot of them out there on both sides that they're tasked with basically facilitating this corporate oligarchy that runs our country now. Only I feel like we're getting to a breaking point, because they do have to do these no longer underhanded tactics, these overt tactics in broad daylight to say, yeah, we're going to cheat, and that's it. And, who's going to stop us? I think they're kind of daring this sort of uprising, if you will. And it's almost like a couple of you guys kind of have to be martyrs, if you will, because when Jen ran for Congress, the local DEC, the unions, they did everything to make it seem like Jen wasn't running for Congress and that Wasserman Schultz must be protected at all costs. Case in point, Debbie happens to be one of the biggest money movers in the Democratic Party and essentially is the leader of the Democratic Party in the state of Florida. So they're going to move heaven and earth to keep things the way it is, even if it isn't, even if it's not democratic. I believe that because this is becoming so much more frequent, and it's happening everywhere, everyone thinking that, well, Debbie's an anomaly. Debbie's really bad, to be sure. But this is a systemic problem that is it's springing up everywhere, where whether you're running in the Democratic Party or you're running outside of the Democratic Party, the goal is to stop non-corporate candidates from succeeding, and at any cost, And I think that that's what you guys are going through right now. What do you think?
If folks haven't seen the film on HBO, I believe it's Draining the Swamp, where it profiles Matt Gaetz and Tom Massey, the Republicans. And, one thing to say about Gaetz and Massey, they have been outspoken about money. Maybe not in all the ways I'd like them to be, but they have, at least on
I don't trust Matt Gaetz as far as I could throw him. I think he's completely full of it. But I will give Thomas Massey his due. He actually does keep his word on corporate money.
And what's instructive is it shows you what happens when Tom Massey gets summoned to the Republican National Committee headquarters, and he's given his list of, you have to call all these people and you have to raise this much money. They show that. They show how stark it is, how clear it is. And I worked on Capitol Hill for a number of years doing anti-war stuff. And, the members I worked with would tell me about this. The late Walter Jones, Republican from North Carolina, he had this way he told this story about his first day and being so excited there decades ago. And then just giving you have to raise this amount of money every day. And it's only gone up, of course, since. And we know that committee assignments are determined by how much money you raise, that there's a tier structure for the committees in Congress, so that if you want to be on the A tier, which would be, defense, energy, healthcare, pharmaceuticals, that kind of thing, agriculture, probably, whatever it is, banking, you have to bring in X amount of money. B tier, a little less money. C tier, and then you get down to D tier, which I don't know what that is. Maybe you get the name post office or something like that. But it's structured that way for a reason. We'd also see it too in the sense of that the way the money was just so prevalent everywhere. So again, I was up there doing anti-war work for years, and I can tell you that at the height of the Iraq and Afghan wars, when we had 250, 300,000 soldiers and contractors in Iraq and Afghanistan, there were about 10 people working full-time against the wars in DC. That's it. The groups would come in, political peace action would come in. They do their lobby days, Friends Committee, they do their stuff. But in terms of how many people, and you go and you meet with members or their staffs. And I remember the staff, the military advisor for Senator Bob Casey, he explained very clearly that when the committees and the members got their briefings on the wars, 7 out of 10 times those briefings did not come from the CIA or the Pentagon or the Department of State or the NSC. They came from think tanks that were funded by the defense industry, right? So the people who are advising the members of Congress on an issue like war are the people who profit from the war. And that's just, and that's the same for pharmaceuticals, for agriculture, for healthcare, for, banking, whatever it is, that it's such a corrupted system we have that the money just is a cycle that continues to ensure that there's a reinforcement of whatever the money wants. And it is. This is something I think most people understand. It's something that we're seeking, of course, to overturn. But it is. We are up against an edifice here that is massive. Look, in North Carolina in 2020 Senate race, $300 million was spent. I mean, $300 million for a Senate race in North Carolina. And this year, I'm sure it'll be more. In other states, it'll be even greater than that.
Yeah, no. And like you said, Matt, I think most people now get it. That's one of the central themes that we talk about throughout this campaign. And one of the biggest motivators that people have to voting against the incumbent is when we tell them that he's the fifth highest recipient of corporate money, their eyes just roll. They're like, oh my God. And they don't need much, explanation as to why that's important, why that affects them. If anything, they feel so disillusioned by how bad it's gotten that they're like, what's the point? But usually I can convince them, just give me the vote and maybe I won't change the system. But at the very least, you're going to have a voice in there pushing back against this nonsense that's calling it out. It is the tsunami that we're all facing as citizens of this country, is this corporate money that's just dominated. And it does feel at times overwhelming. Like you win one seat, but you got 434 others that are just dominated by corporate money. So what do you do? But I think that we got to start pushing back. And I think there's a growing cohort. I think it's maybe 80 members now in the U.S. House that have taken the no corporate money pledge. I think there's a handful in the Senate who have now taken that pledge. So there's like a growing cohort of people who are starting to acknowledge and at least put up some sort of resistance to this corporate money, if not enough resistance. And so I think we are getting to the point where hopefully there is a tipping point in Congress and there's enough members just calling it out and beyond just calling it out, taking actual kind of political stands and saying that, no, I'm not going to vote for this appropriations bill if it's going to continue to fund a corrupt healthcare system that enriches health insurance companies and pharmaceutical companies and lets everyone else essentially go bankrupt or not get the care they need. I'm not going to fund a defense industry that can't pass a dang audit, the only agency in the country, and also the one with the most money. It makes no sense. How is that the case? And so, yeah, I'm hopeful that we're really close to that tipping point where there's enough members and enough of them are willing to really just, stick their neck out and fight for the American people, because I think the American people are there. I think the politicians who are elected are a little way too fearful to actually put their neck and challenge the corporate power that has really gripped our nation's capital for decades now. So,
and let us not forget the co-opting that has happened of what we say as left or progressive. When you look at the fact that the Congressional Progressive Caucus has how many members? How many members are in the Congressional Progressive Caucus? Because I know that Shontel Brown is a member of the Congressional Progressive Caucus. And I actually believe that Nancy Pelosi might officially be a member. I forget.
I double checked. She was the founding member.
She was a founding member, yeah.
Okay.
So no longer a member.
Clearly, that doesn't mean anything. right? Like there's no, that doesn't mean anything. So there's no way for most people to really discern. And so we generally are of the opinion that either you do or do not, or are not beholden to corporate special interests. And if you are, then you are automatically, as far as I'm concerned, not doing your job. So, you know, and it's really very basic. And I don't really care whether it's people on the left or the right. I really don't. I mean, if you're representing your community, then that's whatever that is. If they're conservative people, then that's what they should have representing them. Thanks for watching. If you want to support our mission to transform politics into service, please like this video, subscribe, follow us on social media, and consider joining our Patreon, where you'll get early access to our interviews as well as other exclusive content. Links are in the description. Peace out.